jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps too. I can't hear you, buddy. Back me up.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Oh, Lord, yeah.
Hey everybody, today I've got a BB-57 Shovelhead to take a look at, which is an all-new mold of a wild boar that was released a couple of months ago. We're going to take a look at some package details, pretty close look at the figure, I'll do a transformation demo, then I'll wrap it up with a box trade and conclude with some final thoughts, so let's jump into it. Starting with the package, you've got the usual beautiful box art with a nice cutaway image of Shovelhead on the front, and it mirrors the overall color scheme of the figure with beige and black accents. Cool artwork on the back, design team is X2R, that's 52 Toys in-house design team, and a lot of nice details all around the box. Inside we have a molded bubble card, and inside the bubble card of course is a box charger. You got instructions, a catalog, box charger insert, and a character card. We'll take a quick look at this. Beautiful artwork on the front, and this is great. A lot of people have paired Shovelhead with a prior release, the Desert Assault Squad Meerkats, as a nod to Timon and Pumbaa from the Lion King movie. Obviously 52 Toys is very aware of that also, and I think that's really funny. Another interesting thing that got my attention is the numeric designator has a dash in it. Little bit of backstory: for a long time, and possibly for the entire history of the Beastbox line, the number on all character cards hasn't had a dash, even though that's the standard way it's presented on everything else, which I've pointed out in several reviews. I first noticed that they fixed this in my Deep Purple review, and Shovelhead is an earlier release than that one, so 52 Toys apparently remedied that earlier this year. I think it's great that they corrected this, and by some chance, if they happen to see one of my reviews and I had a small part in getting this minor inconsistency corrected, I'm glad to have had a tiny contribution to the legacy of 52 Toys. Anyway, on to the character bio. So it says, a great auxiliary member to the DAS. Although it does not look smart at all, it gets the job done with flying colors when teaming up with the DAS. Its mighty jaws can tear up anything in its way, but when Shovelhead conducts solo mission, it often loses its orientation and gets frustrated. So as far as his stats, he has maximum strength, defense, courage, not too bright, not especially quick, and that's Shovelhead at least according to 52 Toys. But the main event obviously is this figure, and there's quite a bit to get into. First off, it's a really interesting design. This is one that's thematically open to interpretation. So my take on it is this. It's an interesting intersection between high-tech machine animal and at least stylistically with this molded-in head guard, reminiscent of a medieval or Roman Empire era professional soldier, sort of like a legionnaire or something like that. Another thing about Shovelhead is 52 Toys is very tuned in to American pop culture. A Shovelhead specifically is a particular type of Harley, which is an American motorcycle manufacturer. Harleys are also often referred to colloquially as hogs. I don't know the story behind that, but I've always assumed it's because of the specific rumbling sound of their engines. Compared to other motorcycles, it's an unmistakable sound. It also has a lot of really interesting kibble. It's got a lot of high-tech machine components, and looking at it from its profile, it does have a little bit of a razorback look. I really dig that. I also love how well they worked in the proportions of this figure. Even without the extra bits on its back here, its overall shape is unmistakably a pig. As far as the back components, they're listed as cannon on the side, but looking at them more closely, they do kind of look like jet engines or something like that. This large piece could be an engine cover. As far as this piece, this is just my theory, but I have a feeling that 52 Toys originally intended this whole piece to be the Archer feature. It's mechanized in a way that serves absolutely no purpose whatsoever other than for its transformation, which wouldn't even require this raised articulated arm. To my eye, this looks like the hilt of a compound bow. It could be that they just decided this was going to be too complex and ended up reconfiguring it as a separate bonus item, which is a yellow crossbow that doubles as a shovel. That's a piece I opted not to buy just because I didn't like the way it sits under his chin. So a back-mounted crossbow would have been perfect, and if there were a hole inside the center section where you could notch in an arrow, I think that would have made this figure a home run. But other than that, it's basically an articulated piece that really serves no purpose. Anyway, closing thoughts on the ambiguity of Shovelhead's design. It's one of those things where it's a bunch of disparate ideas that were brought together and could have easily turned out horribly, but in the hands of a really capable designer, a piece like this works really well. And in the case, I think it absolutely does. It's got some great looking tusks, and these are actually kind of sharp. Beautifully sculpted ears, they're articulated with a rotation for its transformation. You've got these jaw pieces, nice looking snout, great leg sculpting with these little tiny hooves. And again, the proportions work great for a wild boar. Something I want to point out is this odd flat piece on the back of his head. Basically, if you're looking at every representation of this figure on the instruction manual, the packaging, you name it, they do actually show Shovelhead with this piece sticking straight out. If you look at it in profile, that gaping hole looks odd. I mean, if you're going to follow these instructions to the hilt, that's totally up to you. In my opinion, the way you really want to position this is to have this be the back of its neck. You can cover that up a bit with that pseudo crossbow piece, and it fits in there pretty nicely. That doesn't affect the head articulation, and I think it does give the figure a much nicer profile. Another thing to note, Shovelhead's character bio mentions his strong jaws. Well, something curiously Shovelhead doesn't actually have is a mouth, which is a little unusual because most other figures do have an articulated mouth. But to be fair, the way this figure's overall posture works is you gotta be looking at it at a very specific angle to notice that. So it's kind of inconsequential, but definitely unusual. Another oddity is this gaping chest cavity. If you're looking at it at a slight angle, the neck piece essentially covers that up, but straight on, it's clear as day. Interesting to note is when I first took this out of the package, this gray flap was actually folded back. So one partial remedy is that you can fold this gray piece forward. It doesn't snap into place or anything, so you have to rotate it up and avoid touching it when you reconnect the lower chest part. And that covers it up quite a bit better. Another oddity is these are listed as cannons, and of course there's that ambiguity of, well, what the hell are these things? I have no idea. This piece is a sort of cantilevered beveled part. I guess you could interpret that to be a stack of arrow bolts or something like that. But if this is a launcher, why is it at this angle? It looks cool, works really well with the contour of the animal, so I think it's one of those odd things that's left up to your interpretation. As far as articulation, Shovelhead has a pretty decent amount of posability for its bulky proportions. For its overall size and dimensions, I think they did an admirable job with what they had to work with. So yeah, you got this articulation on the hoof, a complete range of motion at the shoulder and at the elbows. The hips actually have a bit of a wiggle component. The head has a decent left and right range of motion. Can't rotate too far up, but it can definitely tilt down. So under the color scheme, this is mainly beige and black with some muted gray plastic bits. As far as that black, it's actually a very dark gray with a really subtle flake paint effect. I don't know how well you can see this on camera, but you do get ahead of that color mixture in the plastic with these little swirl effects. I think this is a very stylish touch, so kudos to 52 Toys for that extra bit of effort. As far as paint applications, it has a lot of really cool graphics. This might be a kill count, land animal faction symbol here, and again you got the cannon graphics. There are actually 5, count them, 5 different colors used for the graphics. It's done in such a stylish way that it's subtle, not garish, and this without question added to the difficulty of the manufacturing of this particular piece. So hats off to 52 Toys for going that extra mile on this figure's paint job. I mean, it's enough subtlety that you probably wouldn't appreciate it unless you really think about the effort it takes to do something like this, and do it consistently for a mass production piece. So as far as the colors, you've got neon orange, beige, green, red, and black. One other thing I want to point out is these neon orange bits on the cheeks, which to me looks kind of like war paint. This is one detail I wish they'd done differently. These sculpted eyes are the same neon color, and visually they blend together and almost make it look like it has compound eyes or something like that. I think that was a mistake, to be honest. They should have either painted the eyes a different color or, more preferably, use a transparent orange piece insert, as has been the case with many other figures. So those are all the details I wanted to talk about for Shovelhead. Now we'll move on to a transformation demo. Starting off, these jaw pieces snap into place and they're going to fold in. Then you're going to open up this chest cavity, just pop that down, fold this piece out, and you'll leave it out for now. Then we're going to fold the head in. So we'll just fold that in, and the back of the head piece just folds straight back. The ears are going to fold in, but I'm not going to do that right away. The bottom panel is going to fold up and close the head up inside the cavity. This little notch piece is going to go right up against his head. These cannon pieces are essentially going to slide forward, then rotate up a bit. Same on the other side. The whole back kibble piece is going to rotate up and out of the way for a bit. The hind legs are going to kick straight back, and then up at a 45-degree angle. And at the hock, they're going to rotate 180 degrees. Bend the legs at the knee joint. The hip piece is a little bit tricky. It's kind of tight, so you have to apply a bit of pressure, but you're not going to break it. It's just going to rotate straight down, and then you'll have this basic shape. Rotate the leg up, and that'll tuck into the cannon. So you rotate that up like so, then you bring the cannon straight down on top of that. So you got about this shape right here. We'll lock it in with these little notches that go into these tabs. You'll just push it in place. This is one of those pieces that you won't feel a snap, but it does lock in securely. Another locking piece is this little piggly wiggly tail. I love the way they curled it slightly. As far as the whole hip assembly, that's just going to push into place here and you'll feel a snap. Then you can rotate that tail down and it'll snap into place. The whole cannon assembly piece is going to slide forward, then you'll push it in and hear a click. This piece is going to rotate down. These tabs will lock into these indentations inside the hip section. This piece is going to fold straight back like so. And this crossbow piece will fold out, and you've got these little tabs that'll fold into this notch. The front shoulders will actually slide back a bit, and it's another notch and tab mechanism that'll lock together. One oddity is this leg just sort of dangles down there and doesn't tuck away, so that seems like a little bit of an afterthought to me. Last thing is rotating the ears down and out of the way. Just follow the contour of the front legs and then you're good to go. So there's Shovelhead's box mode, and of course it fits right into its box charger. Now it's time for a box grade. This is my rating system of 6 categories with 5 points possible for a total score of anything between 0 to 30 points. The figure itself is a really cool design. The backside components are nicely designed, but pretty ambiguous in its function and intent. 4 out of 5. Shovelhead is a solid figure. Feature-wise, it's relatively average, but its overall posability and components give you a good bit to let your imagination run away with. 3 out of 5. 5-2 Toys could easily have slid into a standard fold the head and tail in, fold the legs on the sides, and fold the figure in half transformation for every one of their 4-legged figures. But they didn't do that. Pretty much every Beastbox has a thoughtfully engineered transformation built around not just its overall design and proportions, but its characteristics, and Shovelhead is absolutely no exception to that. Although, these front legs do feel like a bit of an afterthought to me. I have no doubt the engineers are often up against the limits of physics, but that gaping chest cavity stands out, and not really in a great way. 3 out of 5. Articulation is pretty good for a quadruped, with additional limb mobility at the hips and shoulders and a decent head movement, but it's a bit hampered by its overall stocky frame. 3 out of 5. One thing's for sure about Beastboxes, their construction keeps improving. This one has nice firm joints, excellent paint applications, and if you get a hold of one of these, I encourage you to take some time to appreciate every little paint application, joint, and component. There are a lot of little parts this figure's built out of, and no doubt it's extremely complicated to manufacture. That being said, I consider this one a flawless execution for a score of 5 out of 5. Shovelhead is a great addition to any collection. You can get it into some interesting poses, clever transformation, and I love the way it looks. I think this category is instructed by its feature set. It's definitely not lacking, but certainly not above and beyond a regular release, for a score of 3 out of 5. And that brings the box grade total to 21 out of 30. My rating system is a defined set of metrics, but when you get right down to it, it's just a number based on observation and opinion. So putting that aside, I really think Shovelhead is one of the best all-new releases so far this year, and I'm glad I have this little war pig in my collection. Do you have any personal favorite releases from this year? Let me know with a comment. Likes, shares, and subscriptions help keep this channel alive and are always appreciated. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.